Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Gary Smith and welcome to the Storm Count. And today is day 4 of the Core Set 2019 spoiler season. Now I want to start off today's video by apologising for no video yesterday. I was busy with real life stuff, Wednesday Night Magic, that kind of stuff at my local area. And unfortunately that took all the time I would have otherwise had for video making. But hopefully we'll cover most of those cards that were spoiled yesterday today along with every other rare. Like the other day, we will not be covering any commons or uncommons, just rares and mythics, but that still gives us a ton of cards to talk about. First up is Amulet of Safekeeping. 2 mana for a artifact, rare artifact with whenever you become the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter that spell or ability unless its controller pays 1, and creature tokens get -1/-0. Boy, they've really been hating on tokens recently, haven't they, with cards like Chain Whirler and other cards in this set as well. And now we've got Amulet of Safekeeping, although this does seem to be more of a modern hate card in the fact that it tries to hate Storm as hard as it can. It tries to counter Grape Shot and Empty the Warrens, though it doesn't actually counter either of them because all the Storm decks are designed to be able to actually bounce better hate than this. Hate that actually slows their deck down more. Still an interesting card if tokens does become too big a thing, as it allows any colour to be able to actually beat 1/1 tokens in this format, so that's not too bad. Next up we have Cleansing Nova. 3 white for a rare sorcery. Choose one. Destroy all creatures or destroy all artifacts and enchantments. I really like this card, and I think it's going to be the next base board wipe once Fumigate leaves the format, and maybe if you actually want a sorcery speed board wipe anyway. I know Settle the Wreckage is still going to be a big thing until that rotates, and that's already been the biggest board wipe compared to Fumigate, but this is still a very nice card, especially since it's effectively the white command. I can't remember the name of the command at the moment, but basically it's 1 less mana than the white command, but it's kind of 2 of the modes chosen for you. So instead of choosing 2 of the modes separately, this goes like, hey, we destroy all creatures and we destroy artifacts and enchantments, which is a very interesting card. I really like it. It's going to be strong in limited, and it might actually be played more against control decks in standard, as it destroys all the enchantments that the control decks use to bind all your stuff. Still, I actually really do like this card. It's pretty sweet. Next up, we have Graveyard Marshal. Double black for a rare zombie soldier creature. It's a 3/2, and for 2 and a black, you can exile a creature. For 2 and a black, and exile a creature card from your graveyard. Create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. This is incredibly powerful, and the fact with Gravecrawler coming back, or whichever one it is, not Gravecrawler, the enter the battlefield tap 2/2 zombie for 1. Yeah, no, they're really pushing zombies as an archetype in this format into standard, and it's really nice to actually have a last hurrah, as we still have Amonkhet, a zombie kind of set that kind of straddled Shadows of Innistrad and this, so it's really nice. But yeah, no, they're really pushing mono black zombies. I really like it. This is just a sweet card in standard, and a very powerful card in limited as well. Making a bunch of 2/2 zombies in limited is nothing to be sniffed at. A very nice card. Next up we have Runic Armasaur. 1 green for a 2/5 creature dinosaur, where whenever an opponent activates an ability of a creature or land, if it isn't a mana ability, you may draw a card. Okay, Wizards. Why does green keep getting more incidental card draw than blue? Seriously. There's actually very few ways for blue decks to actually draw significant cards outside of things like Search for Azcanta. And don't get me wrong, the blue effects like Search for Azcanta are really good. Glimmer Genius is a reasonable card draw thing, but it seems to be more and more that green gets the incidental card draw that just gives it far more card advantage over a game. Now, yes, this is actually probably the weakest one green's had in a while. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of a creature or land that isn't a mana ability, is still a big ask. Most creatures don't actually have that many activated abilities that people are using, and the non-mana ability of lands, again, very rarely happens. There's a reason why the red card from Amonkhet block that punishes people for activating abilities sees very little play. I mean, heck, this doesn't even punish vehicles until they're already creatures. So yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's not a very actually powerful ability necessarily, but it's still strapped to a very good body, and Yeah, it's a great defender and it just really does really well. I wouldn't be surprised if this sees play in standard, though again, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if it didn't. Very interesting but very strong card. Next up, we have One with the Machine. 3 in a blue for a rare sorcery. Draw cards equal to the highest converted mana cost among artifacts you control. I love this card. From its gorgeous art to its just very, very powerful ability, it's such a sweet card. And I know it won't see any standard play, but I really want it to. Metalwork Colossus is still in the format for a couple of months. 4 mana, draw 10 with the ability to have Reliquary Tower in play and never discard any of these cards. Please make it happen. Next up, we have Banefire. X and a red for this rare sorcery reprint. Banefire deals X damage to any target. If X is 5 or more, this spell can't be countered and the damage can't be prevented. This is an amazing card against controlled X. Red decks have actually really needed a way to actually push through the last few points of damage against against white-based control, especially when they have Lyra. Now, I know most people will say, well, what does red need? Red doesn't need this. Red doesn't need this. Except maybe aggro decks don't need it, maybe mono red or red black doesn't need it, but more decks like red blue or Grixis Control or Grixis Midrange could actually really use these sideboard cards as a way to push through those final points of damage. Red isn't just the aggro deck, everyone. Sometimes you need to provide answers to the other parts of that use that colour. Still an incredibly nice card to see play, although we still for a bit have that 4 mana blue spell that just puts stuff back on the deck, so you can still answer it in the control decks, just not as efficiently as other threats. Next up, we have Psy Master Thopterist. 2 in a blue for a 1/4 legendary creature human artificer at rare. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying, and pay 1 and a blue, sacrifice 2 artifacts, draw a card. This is a very interesting card. For 3 mana for 1/4 doesn't seem like a lot of stuff, but it does create you Thopters whenever you cast an artifact. That said, Efficient Construction already does that as a 4 mana enchantment that doesn't see any play, so it'll be interesting to see if this does. Being 1 mana cheaper, also being a creature and strapping a way to draw cards to it does seem like it could be enough to get it there. That 1 mana cheaper actually does matter a lot, especially whether you have cards like Prophetic Prism. Being able to cast this turn 3 into double Prophetic Prism turn 4 or 2 mana artifact is actually really good. I've already seen a lot of people speculating this could see play in a Paradoxical Outcome style deck where you bounce a bunch of artifacts, play them, get a bunch of Thopters, but I think that'll be too janky to really be competitive, and there's a lot of other jank to play with in this format. Still, very powerful card in Constructed, in Commander, definitely very good, and could be playable in Limited depending on how many other artifacts we get. We do know the blue-white archetypes artifacts, but yeah, we haven't really seen that many good artifacts outside of Rare slot at the moment. Next up, we have Valiant Knight. 3 and a white for a 3/4 human knight creature at rare. Other knights you control get +1/+1, and for 3 white, knights you control gain double strike until end of turn. Oh boy, here's the big payoff for paying knights. I knew there would be more knight stuff in the core set when they announced those things a while ago, and this is a very powerful card. Firstly, it's a Night Lord, and while it is 4 mana, it does come packed with a fantastic ability on top of it. Combine this with, I don't know, New Benelia, the saga for Benelia, and you're going to have an incredibly powerful board state very, very quickly. The fact that Benelia curves into, what is it, that on turn 3, this on turn 4, to have double striking plus massive knights on turn 5 is significantly powerful. Again, whether or not this is playing standard or other constructed formats, I don't know outside of Commander, but this will probably be incredibly insane in Limited. There's just a ton of artifacts in this set, knights in this set. Speaking of more knights in this set, Lina Selphus Champion. 4 white for a legendary creature human knight. It's a 3/3 at rare. And when Lina Selphus Champion enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token for each non-token creature you control. Sacrifice her, and creatures you control with power less than her gain indestructible until end of turn. Limited Bomb is just going to create you a huge board state if you're already ahead, and then you can sacrifice her after doing an Alpha Strike to keep all your Alpha Strikers alive. This is such a powerful card. Such a fantastic EDH card as well, because you just know people are going to play it in EDH. In actual other constructed formats though, 6 mana 3/3, even with its other abilities, might be a struggle to get there. Still, very powerful Limited card, and you can't really question that. Next up, we have Goblin Trashmaster. 2 red for a 3/3 Goblin Warrior creature at rare. Other goblins you control get +1/+1 and sacrifice a goblin, destroy target artifact. Huh. This whole 4 mana lords with extra abilities strapped to them is a bit of a common trope, it seems, in this set. That said, this one is fantastic, and I would not be surprised if this sees play constructed. In standard, goblins just needs tiny little bits more to see play, and this is the fantastic piece. It didn't have a +1/+1 lord, and now it does, but more importantly, it allows you to destroy all those pesky artifacts. Anything that comes from this set, gone. Anything already around in other sets like Heart of Kirin, gone. This card is fantastic and is going to see tons of play, I reckon, in standard, at least in casual goblin decks. Whether or not goblins end up as a tier 1 deck, I don't know, but yeah, it's a very powerful card. Next up, we have Sarkhan Fireblood. 1 red for a Sarkhan Planeswalker. It starts at 3 loyalty and +1. You may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. +1. Add 2 mana in any combination of colours. Spend this mana to only cast dragon spells. And -7. Create 4/5/5 red dragon creature tokens with flying. This is subtly powerful on the front of it. A rummaging Planeswalker for 3 mana is still incredibly powerful. Yes, it's doing a very good Tibalt impression, but at least you choose which card to discard. So you're never getting that whole draw a card, then discard the card you drew, and you really needed that card. So much better than Tibalt in that respect. The fact that it also has 2/+1s, both of which are actually fairly good in the right deck, you just know you're going to lose to someone that uses him to play Nicol Bolas on next turn, or one of the other flashy big Elder Dragons next turn. Very fun card include for this set. Timmy's going to love this. Timmy's just love their dragons. Very Timmy Planeswalker. And it's a card I've seen people poo-poo all over the internet and say it's terrible. But I do think this card could see legs, especially in a dragon deck, especially with some of the other spoilers we're about to see today. Which includes our next spoiler, Spit Flame. 2 and a red for an instant sorcery, instant red rare card. Spit Flame deals 4 damage to target creature, and whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay red. If you do, return Spit Flame from your graveyard to your hand. It's cards like this that take a casual dragon deck into the realm of tier 2, tier 1.5, and maybe even to tier 1. If the deck has enough mana fixing and you've got enough good dragons, and there's plenty of good dragons in the format it looks like, this card just really helps you get there. The one thing dragon decks don't like doing is losing to a bunch of early creatures, and this just really helps you stabilize, especially when each other dragon draws you this back to your hand. This is fantastic. It rewards you for flooding a little bit. It just keeps giving you answers to their threats. Sure, it doesn't answer planeswalkers, but that's what your dragons are there for, killing their planeswalkers and killing your opponent. I love this card. You just know it's going to be a huge pain in Limited, but even in outside of Limited, you're going to see a ton in like Commander, you're going to see a ton of this in Standard. Like I said, just because there's casual doesn't mean it's not going to kill you once in a while. Next up, we have Chaos Wand. 3 generic mana for a rare artifact. Pay 4 generic mana and tap to target opponent to activate the ability, which is target opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost, then put the exile cards that weren't cast this way on the bottom of that library in a random order. Okay, this card is very, very powerful, and I'm so glad you can't target yourself with this. This into one of the other spoilers I may have already talked about in previous videos, but we didn't actually have the official spoiler for, so I don't know if I did. But this into some of the very powerful instants and sorceries in this format right now would be silly if you could choose your own deck. That said, this into your opponent's deck is going to be hilarious. Again, this is probably more of a commander card. I don't really think this will see much play in Standard, but it's still a very interesting effect to see. Next up, we have Phylactery Lich. Black for a 5/5 zombie creature at rare. It has indestructible, and as it enters the battlefield, you put a Phylactery counter on an artifact you control. When you control no permanents with Phylactery counters on them, sacrifice Phylactery Lich. This is an incredibly powerful card, and if mono black zombies with a couple of artifacts sees play, this could definitely see a good include. Obviously, 5 mana 3/3, 3 mana 5/5 indestructible is incredibly powerful. In mono black, that's not really a big cost with triple black, but you also have to remember that you need to have artifacts, and that is a big ask for such an aggressive deck. Then again, there's Scrap Heat Scrounger, so maybe this could see play, though the blow up of Scrap Heat Scrounger and this dying with 1 shock Yeah, I don't know. This card is interesting. If you have like some sort of good tribal artifact that sees play, this could be good. But a braid is everywhere, and I don't know. I just don't think it will get there. Not that it ever got there before, but still, I don't know. It's on the edge. In limited, it'll probably be very powerful. You just play this when you have an artifact. Your opponent has no artifact destruction, and you just kill them. But I don't know. It's just so close to being there. Next up, we have Arcades the Strategist. 1 green, white, blue for a legendary creature Elder Dragon. It is a 3/5 with flying and vigilance. Whenever a creature with Defender enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Each creature you control with Defender assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, and can attack as though it didn't have Defender. Oh boy, this card's not designed for standard. Yes, there'll be janky players who build the walls deck with this and win a few FNMs in games, but this is very powerful for formats like Commander, where people like playing these janky high toughness decks and killing each other with them. Fortunately, it doesn't mean that other people's creatures assign combat damage with their toughness, only yours do. Which means in EDH, when you've got those ridiculous creatures that have just higher toughness than power, you don't just give a huge advantage to your opponent. That said, this is just such a nice card. It's really cheap, easy to get out, which seems to be a big thing of the new Elder Dragons. Like when they brought back Eldrazi, they really want you to play these things. And yeah, no, I'm just really excited to see this card in EDH. Not in my own deck, of course. I'll never be caught playing Defenders, but playing against it, I reckon, will happen quite a few times. I've got a very janky play group right now. Next up, we have Demanding Dragon. 3 red for a 5/5 dragon creature at rare. It has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, it deals 5 damage to target opponent unless that player sacrifices a creature. This is a very good card. This is very close to a 5/5 of haste. Yes, there are going to be board states where you just play this and they sack an Elvish Mystic, but at the very least it's a 2-for-1, right? Like, sacking an Elvish Mystic isn't always no cost. And no, I could definitely see this Dragon Scene play in a Dragon deck and hating playing against it every time. Remember, if you have no creatures, you're just taking 5. This is so close to 5/5 Dragon with haste. I don't know if it will see too much play. We've still got Glorybringer in the format, and there's just a few other better dragons, really. But maybe when they rotate, this could be a maybe sideboard playable card. I don't know. You see a 5/5 for 5. It's a dragon, and it has an enter the battlefield ability. You kind of want it to see play, but I don't know, the fact that it doesn't actually have haste and people can sack unneeded creatures kind of makes me feel a bit, risky playing it. Next up, we have Disdainful Pyromancer. 1 and a red for a human wizard creature. It's a 2/2 and it's a rare, and it has red and tap. Discard a card, draw a card. And 2 red and tap, sacrifice Disdainful Pyromancer, deal 4 damage to target creature. I actually really like this card. A Rummager in Wizards decks, which kind of has needed a good 2-drop. It's just been lacking good 2-drops, really, that have good abilities. And this really helps you stop flooding out. It helps you find up threats like other wizards. It helps you find Wizards Lightning, Wizards Retort. And when you don't need the Rummage anymore, it can just kill a creature out of nowhere. This is a very powerful 2-drop. Yeah, I know the Wizards deck's janky and a Wizards deck's a bit more casual and may never actually get to tier 1, but if it does get to tier 1, I wouldn't be surprised if this sees play in it. Outside of Constructed, though, this is just a very good limited card. In limited, cards that just help you filter through your deck, help you either hit the lands you want to hit or stop drawing lands where you don't want them, and also be removal spells, are going to see a ton of play. Maybe this isn't a first pick depending on what else is in the pack, but this is still very high up on that list, depending on how red ends up in the limited format. Next up, we have Supreme Phantom. 1 and a blue for a 1/3 spirit creature with flying, and other spirits you control get +1/+1. Ooh, Spirit's finally got another 2-mana Lord. People I've seen going really hyped over this thanks to Drug Skull Captain, which is a 3-mana Spirit Lord. Wizard Spirits is one of those things in like Modern with Bant Spirits and Collector Company has been so close to playable, it hasn't quite got there. Maybe this can get them there. I know it's not flashy, it's a 1/3 creature, but it's still pretty reasonable. Next up, we have Lilliana Untouched by Death. 2 black for a Lilliana Planeswalker. It starts with 4 loyalty and has +1. Put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. If at least one of them is a zombie card, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. -2, target creature gets -X until end of turn where X number of your zombies you control. And -3, you may cast zombie cards from your graveyard this turn. This is actually a very powerful planeswalker, and I've seen a lot of people ridicule this. But let me just say this. This isn't what you typically expect from certain planeswalker. This isn't a Khan. This isn't a Chandra. This isn't even like a Teferi. Which, yeah, I know Teferi's 5 mana, but my point still stands. This isn't you can play it on its own in a deck that doesn't care about what it actually does. It's just a good planeswalker and even win the game. Right? This is a planeswalker that really wants you to be playing with a certain tribe, but really rewards you with that tribe. Even, the Sarkhan we saw earlier that cares about dragons isn't as tied to his tribe as Lilliana is, right? +1, she puts the top 3 cards into your library into your graveyard, and if one of them's a zombie, you lose 2 life. Your opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. This helps you gain life up against other aggressive decks. This helps you push through damage against control decks, and it helps fuel your graveyard for any other graveyard synergies you have outside of her. Her -2 allows you to push through mid-range decks and other aggro decks when you play her if you already control a bunch of zombies, and her -3 allows you to refuel against control decks after they've wrathed your board. This is insane in like a black aggro deck that's just all about zombies, and I wouldn't be surprised if this sees play. In fact, out of the planeswalkers we've seen so far, I wouldn't be surprised if she's the second most played outside of Vivian, just because the Vivian green one is just bonkers right now. It's just such a good planeswalker, and the zombie tribe does look to be super aggressive, and it just has a lot of support out there to really help it get going. Again, I also wouldn't be surprised if it didn't see play, but it's so close. It's just so close to being a very good card in a very good shell. Remember, sometimes cards that don't seem that strong are just perfect for their synergy, and I think this is where Lilliana stands. Next up, we have Liliana's Contract. 3 black for an enchantment that says when it enters the battlefield, draw 4 cards and lose 4 life. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 4 more demons with different names, you win the game. Okay, outside of the synergy with the 3 mana blue enchantment from Ixalan that just basically makes this you win the game if you control 4 creatures with different names. Not as easy as it sounds, by the way, in Standard, despite what people think. Tokens all share the same name, and so you're going to have to really actually work to get this to win. But outside of that, it's still a 5 mana draw 4 cards in black. That's not something they get often. If a black-based control deck that never runs blue sees play in this format, or just doesn't want to run blue in this format, this could see play in that deck. It's just a fairly powerful card, and I like it. In Limited, it's going to be great. In Limited, like where you have like 4 random demons, and I'm assuming it's possible to get 4 different demons in this set, because it'd be annoying if it wasn't. But yeah, no, we'll have to wait and see what we get in this set. I still love this card. In Commander, you're just going to see people win with this in Commander in a janky Shadowborn Apostle deck as well. Next up, we have Fallen Lieutenant. 1 and a green for an Elf Warrior creature. It's 2/3. And whenever it becomes a target of a spell ability an opponent controls, put a 1/1 green Elf Warrior creature token into play. And for 5 and a green, it gets +4/+4 until end of turn. I actually really like this creature. It's the kind of thing I think Merfolk wish they had. It's really going to actually help make a deck like like Elves see playing Standard. Elves is so close to playable. It has just a bunch of really good cards. And Mono Green Elves, this could really help push it forwards. 2/3 for 2 is no joke. And the fact that if people try and actually get rid of it with things like Seal Away, Cast Out, or the other abilities that actually like trade with this efficiently, you're at least going to get a 1/1, which while not necessarily impressive, does go really well with some other elves in Standard. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they saw any play in a high up deck. It definitely seems like Wizards really want to push monocolored tribes in this set, and I'm really happy they're doing that. Next up, we have Isolate. 1 white mana for a instant speed rare, and it says exile target permanent with convert mana cost 1. I mean, this isn't made for Standard, right? It's for Modern, where exiles things like Aether Vial or Delver of Secrets on both sides, despite what some people I've seen say, or Death Shadow, or yeah, there's a bunch of things it hits. Whether or not you actually want to hit a bunch of those things, and it depends how many of those aren't creatures. I don't know. It's an interesting include. Whether it will see play or not, probably won't ever see play in Standard, but who knows? Maybe we'll just get a bunch of really powerful 1-drops in the next set. Next up, we have Mysterious Archaeologist. 1 and a blue for a 2/1 rare, with 3 blue, draw 2 cards. Yeah, this is like that rare pirate from Ixalan where it was just a 3 mana 2/1 that was a rare because it could sometimes be unblocked. I know why this is rare, by the way. For limited, 5 mana draw 2 cards is insane, and I definitely think this is deserves to be rare. It's just unexciting when you open this as your rare in a pack, a 2 mana 2/1. Ugh. But it will win you more games than you think. Next up, we have Detection Tower, and I'm so glad we've got this card. Tap to it's a land, and you tap it to add a colours to your mana pool, or pay one and tap. And to end a turn, your opponent and creatures they control could be targeted as if they didn't have hexproof. If they do have hexproof, I mean. That's just fantastic. We finally have a way to get rid of that pesky green dinosaur, and a way to reward control decks who don't try and flood 3 or 4 different colours to get as many different threats or answers as possible. Instead, what you go is I'm going to go for 2 mana card decks, have efficient mana. Yes, I get less answers, but the answers I get are going to be far more effective. And I really like this in sets now that they've included so much land tape. It's just such a nice card. Next up, we have Leonin War Leader. 2 white for a 4/4 cat soldier creature. Whenever it attacks, you create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink that are tapped and attacking. I keep seeing people compare this to Brimaz, and it's really not. It's far more like that 4 mana white 3/4 battle cry that creates 2 soldiers when it attacks. Yeah, it's far more like Hero to Blayhold, I think. In sense of that, I wouldn't be surprised if the sea play. Whenever this attacks, it's huge power on its own. Really good in like the top end of any sort of like white weenie deck. But I can also seeing tons of play in any cat deck. Just a very good card. Next up, we have Thraying Omnipotence. 3 black for sorcery. Each player loses half their life, then discards half the cards in the hand, then sacrifice half the creature they control. Round up each time. So they always get rid of at least one, basically. Hello, Super Smallpox for standard at rare. This is actually a very powerful card. I love the flavour. I love the art behind the mending of it. It's just a really nice card. Will it see play in standard? I don't know. It depends if some sort of full cruel control sees play. But the fact that if you're playing a right deck, you've got access to ways to return things to your hand, this could be really pretty good. Also, it gets rid of half their life total, which means you can punish other control decks. Really good card. Next up, we have Djinn of Wishes. 3 blue for a 4/4 Djinn. This is a reprint, by the way. It has flying and enters the battlefield with 3 wish counters on it, and you can pay 2 blue, return a wish counter, exile top card of your library, and you may cast it without paying its mana cost. If you don't, you exile it. Also, you reveal it, and then you may cast it. If you don't, you exile it. This is innocuous a little bit. I think people think it's not as good as it is. And it's a fairly janky card, I get, but in limited, it's going to be a powerhouse. But in constructed, this with Omniscience in the set is very powerful. Especially when you remember we've got a 4 mana brainstorming creature. Yeah, this is actually going to be very powerful. And we all know Saffron Olive's going to build a deck out of it, which now he is. Next up, we've got Windreader Sphinx. Again, another reprint, 5 blue for a 3/7 rare creature. Whenever a creature with flying attacks, you may draw a card. Now, yeah, it's nice to see this reprinted, though I'm almost certain the last time we saw Windreader Sphinx, this was a mythic, though I could be wrong about that. That said, if I am wrong, even if I am wrong, it's nice to see this for limited. A bunch of blue flyers, drawing a bunch of cards, 3/7 for 7. It's a top end. Not very exciting, but still very good card. Next up, we have Dragon's Horde. 3 generic mana for an artifact that can tap to add 1 mana of any colour. But it also has the ability to say whenever a dragon enters the battlefield, you put a gold counter on. Sorry, when a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, you put a gold counter on it. Oh, and you can just tap it and remove a gold counter to draw a card. So let me get this straight. It adds 1 mana of any colour, making it a brilliant mana rock. We haven't had a mana rock this good in standard for ages. And it also draws you cards if you play dragons. Excuse me while I put this into a Grixis mid-range deck and just use it to cast Nicol Bolas and Glorybringer all day. Oh, this is such a nice card. Definitely will see play somewhere in Constructed because you just know someone's going to try and make it work. And then finally for today we have Sun Cleanser. Oh boy, after a nearly 30 minute now video, we've got to the end. Sorry guys for just such a mammoth spoiler video. Sun Cleanser is a 1 and a white for a human cleric. It's a 1/4, and when it enters the battlefield, you choose one. Remove all counters from target creature. It can't get any more counters for as long as this remains on the battlefield. And target opponent loses all counter this when this enters the battlefield, and they can't have any more counters on them while this is in the battlefield. Hello, really late answer to energy that should have been here like 6 months ago, 7, 8 months ago. I guess it's a bit late, really. I don't know if this will see play moving forward. If it could target any permanent, it'd be good, but then it might just be too good because it kills planeswalkers for 2 mana. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I do know that's too powerful, but still, very nice card, I guess, if the right deck shows up that you want to hate on. I don't know. But that's the end of today's spoilers, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoy it. If you want to see any more videos from me in the future, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment below by what card you find exciting, and I'll see you next time.